Okay, is our next speaker ready? The next speaker is going to be talking about healing plants for self-medicating bees.
Hi, my name is Fran Freeman, and I'm from Toronto, Canada, which is where I have hives. I look after hives there with my partner John Kaufman, and we're at Humber College and Humber Arboretum. True confession, I'm not treatment-free, but we use organic methods. Our foundation was, we use an integrated pest management system that resorts to organic acids as a last resort. Compared to most other insects, honeybees have more genes dedicated to memory learning and pattern recognition, and fewer devoted to the genes that are associated with immunity, disease, prevention or fighting disease, and detoxification. So as a result, you probably know that bees resort to certain social immunity behaviors to compensate. And I'm going to focus on just one of these today, which is self-medication. Self-medication is generally defined as an afflicted animal responding to a particular pest or pathogen. And I think actually that definition could be expanded. We see in the first study there that infected nurse bees were selecting a particular honey which had a high antimicrobial property in response to a particular pathogen. So that would be the standard definition of self-medication. But if you think of food as medicine, then surely we could expand that definition a little bit. And if you think, for example, that honeybees don't merely eat a phytochemical or a beneficial chemical at the source, but will bring it back to the colony to feed to their nest mates, or will store it in the colony as kind of a medicine cabinet against future need, then I think definitely those are all forms of self-medication as well. As you know, bees and flowers co-evolved about 100 to 130 million years ago. Some distant ancestor, wasp ancestor of the bee, gave up meat for a plant-based diet and turned to pollen and, in the case of honeybees, bee bread for protein, and then honey and nectar for carbohydrates. Because bees co-evolved, they were in contact with certain products that were found in the flowers that were beneficial to bees medicinally. Initially, bees might have been going to lactic acid bacteria to I'm sorry, I'm not used to presenting like this. Okay. I'm very nervous. I'm going to read, I think maybe that will help. Approximately 80 million years ago, lactic acid bacteria took up residence in the gut of an ancestor of social bees. And initially that would have been to provide some way of acidifying food that the bees were eating. They prefer acidic food and over neutral or alkaline foods. But along the way, they probably would have discovered that, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm sorry, folks.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
You know what I can do is, I can flick through some of the slides and show you. You can read what's on the
You're doing
slides.
fine, girl.
Perfect.
You're great. All good. Don't worry about us. We're just beekeepers. All good, girl.
I know that's okay. Yeah. So I wanted to point out that although the lactic acid bacteria may have been brought into the gut originally as a way of promoting digestion, along the way it would have shown that it had other benefits that were very helpful. For example, some labs are found in the honeybee gut which have been isolated in flowers. Sorry, I think I'm advancing that. There we go. That also have been shown to reduce pathogens such as P. larvae and Nosema ceranae. And in general, beneficial gut bacteria appear to induce immune responses in bees. You can see there are a lot of good reasons for going for good nutrition because bees that are consuming poor nutrition are more susceptible to Nosema, to pesticides, and to a variety of bee viruses, whereas polyfloral pollen can make them more resistant to stress and enhance their immune-related enzyme activities. There are several studies that support that. And in fact, there's one study where a pollen-rich diet can actually compensate for deleterious effects of varroa. In fact, bees in that situation appear to be selecting particularly good nutrition with a particular protein and lipid ratio to combat varroa. There can be advantages to collecting poor quality pollen. For example, a large quantity of pollen collected from a variety of plants is more beneficial to the bees than a lower quantity of pollen collected from a single source, even if it's a really high quality. And there was a study done on mason bees on brood parasitism by wasps, which found that the bees may have been intentionally selecting low-quality protein pollen in order to thwart their predators. Pollen is generally rich in a variety of vitamins. In this case, focusing on ascorbic acid, you see it in a lot of early spring flowers, plants that produce early pollen. Okay, I'm down to the wire. So willow is one that's very high in pollen, in ascorbic acid, and in fact, this study show that high levels of vitamin C can lower the incidence of varroa mites. We all know that honey is naturally antimicrobial. It also contains small amounts of formic and oxalic acid, which is used in commercial products for varroa. Plants contain a lot of secondary metabolites. Bees having co-evolved with flowers can tolerate and often benefit from these secondary metabolites, and a number of them were shown to have potentially therapeutic effects on deformed wing virus. The suggestion there was that flowers could serve as seasonally varied, serially consumed pollinator medicines. White clover produces cyanide when it degrades, may protect bees against pests and pathogens. Bumblebees, 2 studies found sunflowers which had stopped or slowed the progress of gut microbes. Sumac, a bunch of antimicrobial and so on attributes there, including against E. coli, and accelerated mite drop. Now this is a beekeeper intervention, but it suggests that bees going to sumac might be able to deal with their varroa infestations with that plant as well. Various herbs here which contain thymol and carbapenem, and a study on oregano oil shown to control varroa mite. Thymol, of course, showing up in some of the commercial products. Carbapenem is also an acaricide. Nipida, shown to be effective against staph bacteria and fungi, and one type of Nipida inhibiting bee larvae, thyme honey, decreasing the individual bee's Nosema apis spore load. A couple of studies here on both sunflower honey and sunflower pollen and its effect on Nosema ceranae and a bumblebee gut pathogen. Sunflower honey used as an AFB growth inhibitor, and black locust inhibiting EFB to varying degrees. Polyflora, though, in this study was shown to be the most effective. Propolis, lots of studies on propolis and how it can be used, how the bees will use it against AFB and chalk brood. Naturally occurring fungus in bee bread, which can fight against another fungus, chalk brood. And Paul Stamets has done lots of work on various medicinal fungus, like chaga and reishi and so on, and those don't tend to grow in my area, but turkey tail is very common and it's an excellent medicinal fungus. And there's my contact information. I've surveyed about 30 papers at this point. I'm interested in any more. People have recommendations. I'd be glad to hear them. Thank you.
We're so glad she kept going, right?
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions? Can you come to the microphone? Okay, we can release her to her seat.